Mark had always considered himself an ordinary man, worked as a mechanic in a small town, fixing cars and appliances for the people in his neighborhood. His life was simple. He woke up early, worked hard, and went home to his small, quiet apartment. There were moments when he wished things could be different, more exciting. Perhaps, but mostly he was content with his routine. That all changed one night. It started when Mark was walking home after finishing up a long day at work. He was tired, his back sore from lifting heavy engines. And his mind wandered to the usual thoughts, what he was having for dinner, and how much longer his old apartment would hold up. But as he passed the edge of the forest near his home, he noticed something strange in the sky. A bright, glowing object zipped through the night sky and hovered for a moment, then landed with a soft thud in a nearby field. Mark froze. His heart raced. His first thought was that it was some sort of plane, maybe an experimental one. But no, this thing was different. Didn't make any sound. It was shaped like nothing he had ever seen before, smooth, round, and shimmering in the moonlight. Without thinking, Mark found himself walking toward the object. His curiosity outweighed his fear. The closer he got, the more he realized that it wasn't a plane or any sort of known aircraft. It was something far stranger. The ship was small, about the size of a car, and glowing faintly. The metal surface looked otherworldly, like it had been crafted from some material not found on Earth. Mark had heard stories about UFOs and aliens, but he never thought he'd see one for himself. Then, the hatch of the ship opened with a soft hiss, and a figure stepped out. Mark's breath caught in his throat. The being before him looked like a human, but not quite. She was tall, with glowing blue skin that shimmered under the moonlight. Her eyes were large and black, the pupils round and unblinking. Her long silver hair cascaded down her back, and she wore a simple, sleek suit that glowed faintly. She didn't look threatening, but there was something undeniably otherworldly about her presence. "Hello?" "Earthling," the alien woman said in a soft, melodic voice. Her words were perfectly clear, though Mark could sense an accent. "My name is Lyra." Mark stood frozen for a moment, unsure whether he was dreaming or if this was real. Lyra's smile was kind, and she stepped closer. Her expression one of gentle curiosity rather than anything hostile. "I'm Mark," he finally stammered, still trying to process what was happening. Are you an alien?" She finished for him with a soft chuckle. "Yes, I suppose I am." She tilted her head slightly, as if trying to understand his confusion. "I come from a place far away. But don't worry. I'm not here to harm you." Mark didn't know what to say. His mind was racing. This couldn't be real. But here she was, standing in front of him, so calm and so joyful. The fear that had once gripped him started to fade, replaced by an odd sense of peace. "I don't understand," Mark said, shaking his head. "Why are you here? What do you want?" Lyra took a step closer and gently placed a hand on Mark's shoulder. Her touch was warm, comforting. "I've come to learn," she said simply. "What?" "To learn about your world, your people, and your ways. And to share a little of my own." Mark blinked in disbelief. "You came all the way from wherever you're from just to talk?" She nodded, her smile never wavering. "Yes, where I come from, we value joy above all. We believe that by understanding each other and sharing happiness, we can create a better world. I've traveled far to find someone I can connect with, and it seems I've found you, Mark." Mark was still processing everything. An alien, here. To learn about Earth and its people sounded insane, but Lyra's sincerity was clear in her eyes. She didn't seem like she was trying to trick him. In fact, she seemed genuinely happy. "Why me?" Mark asked, his voice quieter now. Lyra's smile grew wider, and her eyes seemed to sparkle with a light of their own. "Because you are different. You may think of yourself as ordinary, but you are far more than that. You have the ability to understand joy in ways many others cannot. That is why I chose to come here to meet you." Mark was at a loss for words. He had never considered himself special in any way. But the way she looked at him made him feel it's important, even though he knew nothing about her world or her people. It was a strange feeling, but it was also comforting. "I'm not sure." I understand, Mark admitted, but I'm glad you're here. I think, Lyra laughed, a light, melodic sound that made Mark feel at ease. You will understand soon enough, but first let me show you something. She gestured toward her ship, and Mark could see that it had started to glow brighter. He didn't know why, but he followed her. It wasn't out of fear anymore. It was curiosity, an overwhelming desire to understand what this alien woman had to offer. As they walked together toward the ship, Mark felt an odd sense of peace wash over him. He had no idea what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like something wonderful was about to begin. The next few days passed by in a blur. Mark couldn't stop thinking about Lyra and the strange encounter they had shared. Every time he tried to focus on his work, her smile and the warmth of her voice seemed to float in his mind, distracting him. He had never met anyone like her before. She wasn't just an alien. It was different. There was something about the way she looked at the world, so full of joy and wonder, that made Mark feel like his life had been too small, too simple. That afternoon, after finishing his work, Mark went to his apartment. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to see Lyra again. He wasn't sure why, but the thought of her left him with a strange mix of curiosity and excitement. He grabbed his jacket and decided to go back to the place where he had met Hertha Field at the edge of the forest. When he arrived, he didn't see her spaceship, but he wasn't disappointed. He had a feeling she would be close by. It didn't take long for him to spot her, standing under a tall tree near the edge of the field, looking up at the sky. "Hey, Lyra," Mark called out, waving. She turned to him with that familiar, bright smile. "Mark, I was hoping you would come. I have something to show you." She motioned for him to come closer. Mark walked up to her, his heart racing slightly. "Something to show me?" he asked, his voice a little unsure. Lyra nodded. "Yes. I want to share something important about where I come from. Something that might help you understand why I'm here." Mark followed her to the edge of the field, where a small patch of flowers bloomed brightly, even though the weather was cold. "These flowers," Lyra said, "are from my planet. They're special because they only grow where happiness is. Felt they absorb the joy of their surroundings, and in return they make the world around them brighter." Mark knelt down and touched one of the flowers. It was soft, its petals glowing with a faint light. He could feel a calmness as his fingers brushed against the petals. The flower felt alive in a way he couldn't explain. "They're beautiful," Mark said, amazed. "But what does this have to do with us?" Lyra sat beside him, her eyes sparkling. "Where I come from, we believe that joy is the most important thing. It's not about what we own or how powerful we are. It's about how we make others feel and how we connect with them. I came to Earth because I wanted to find someone who could share that belief." Mark sat back on his heels, thinking, I never met anyone who spoke so freely about happiness. Most people he knew were focused on work, problems, or just getting by. Happiness felt like something distant, almost like a luxury. "I'm not sure I get it," Mark said, looking up at the sky. "I mean, sure, happiness is important. People struggle every day, trying to survive, dealing with problems. How can we focus on joy when there's so much else going on?" Lyra smiled again, her voice soft. "That's the thing. The world is full of challenges, but the way we face them matters. Joy doesn't mean ignoring the hard times. It means finding light even in the darkness, helping others, and believing that better things are possible. If we only focus on the bad, then we lose sight of the good." Mark looked at her, trying to understand. He had always worked hard, trying to fix things, always thinking about what was wrong with the world. But Lyra was showing him a different way, a way where focusing on happiness could actually help make things better. "Are you saying you came here to help us see things differently?" Mark asked. Lyra nodded. "Not just help. I came here to learn from you too. I believe that every person has the potential to find joy, even in difficult times. We're not so different, Mark. We both want to make the world a better place. I just want to show you how much power there is in joy." Mark thought about this for a moment. He had always been someone who just got by, never thinking too much about the bigger picture. But now, looking at Lyra, he couldn't help but feel that there was something important about what she was saying. It wasn't just about surviving life, it was about living it fully. "Okay?" Mark said finally, feeling a new sense of curiosity. I'm listening. What do you want to show me next? Lyra's smile widened, and she stood up, offering her hand to him. Come with me. I want to show you how we celebrate happiness on my planet. Mark stood up and took her hand, surprised at how natural it felt. As they walked together, Lyra began to explain more about her world. Where I come from, we celebrate small moments like the first rain of the season, or the sound of laughter shared between friends. We even have festivals dedicated to joy. We believe that by celebrating the good, we can make our world better, one moment at a time. Mark could hardly believe what he was hearing. It sounded so different from everything he knew, but there was something about it that felt right. The idea of celebrating happiness, of living with a sense of wonder and gratitude, was something he'd never really considered before. So, you'd think that if everyone focused on joy, we'd solve all our problems? Mark asked, feeling a little skeptical. Lyra turned to him, her eyes kind but serious. Not solve everything, but we'd make life a lot easier to live. When people are happy, they're kinder. They're more willing to help each other. And when they help each other, the world gets a little bit better. Mark didn't have an answer. He wasn't sure if what Lyra was saying would work on Earth, but he couldn't deny the power in her words. He was beginning to see the world through her eyes. For the first time in a long while, he felt hopeful. I think I'm starting to get it, Mark said slowly. Lyra smiled, her expression filled with warmth. I'm glad. There's so much joy here, Mark. You just have to look for it. As they walked through the quiet field, the sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow across the landscape. Mark felt like he was seeing the world for the first time, not just as a place full of problems, but as a place full of possibility. And in that moment, felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of peace. The days passed, and Mark found himself looking forward to every moment he spent with Lyra. She had brought something into his life that he never knew he needed: joy. Her presence was calming, and everything she said made him think differently about the world around him. It wasn't just the things she told him about her planet, it was the way she made him feel. Every conversation, every smile, every shared laugh felt like a window into a brighter world. But even as Mark embraced this new perspective on life, there was something tugging at him. Lyra had been open with him about her world, her beliefs, and her feelings. But there was one thing she hadn't shared, something that Mark could feel in the air whenever they were together. A sense of something more. He could tell she was holding back. There were times when she would look at him with a distant look in her eyes, like she was thinking about something important, but then she would shake it off, her joyful demeanor returning. One evening, as they sat on a park bench watching the sunset, Mark decided to ask her about it. He couldn't ignore the feeling any longer. Lyra, he began, his voice gentle. I feel like there's something you're not telling me. You've been so open about everything else, but there's something in your eyes sometimes. It's like you're holding something back. Lyra turned to him, her eyes soft and thoughtful. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Mark could see the wheels turning in her mind. Then she sighed, a small smile forming on her lips. I didn't want to tell you this, she said quietly, because I was afraid it might change things between us. Mark's heart raced. What do you mean? You can tell me anything, Lyra's smile faded slightly, and she looked away, staring at the horizon. The truth is, I didn't just come to Earth to learn about your world. I came because my people chose me to find a human partner. There's a reason why we're so focused on joy, Mark. It's not just a belief, it's a mission. Mark felt a knot form in his stomach. A mission? What do you mean? I thought we were just getting to know each other, just sharing time together. I didn't know there was more to it. Lyra turned back to him, her expression filled with honesty and a touch of sadness. My species believes that through the power of joy, we can create lasting peace across the galaxies. But to do that, we need to form bonds with other species, bonds of love, trust, and understanding. And Earth. Well, it's one of the last places we haven't reached yet. So I was sent here to find a partner, someone I could connect with, someone who could help bridge the gap between our worlds. Mark stared at her, trying to process her words. His mind raced. So, You didn't come here just because you wanted to? You were sent here to find me? Lyra nodded, her eyes filled with sincerity. Yes, but Mark, I need you to understand. I didn't choose you because of some grand plan. I chose you because when I met you, I felt something real. I didn't come here just to complete a mission. I came because I believed that we could build something together. Mark's head spun. He wasn't sure what to feel. On one hand, it made. Since Lyra had told him from the beginning that she was different, that she had a greater purpose. On the other hand, he couldn't ignore the feeling of betrayal that began to settle in his chest. He had thought their connection was just the start of something beautiful, something natural. But now it felt like he had been part of something bigger all along a mission. Not just a relationship. I don't know what to say, Mark admitted, his voice quieter now. I didn't expect any of this. I thought we were just getting to know each other. But now, it feels like you were just doing what you were told. Lyra's face softened with understanding. I know this is hard to hear, but I want you to know that even though I was sent here with a purpose, everything we've shared has been real. I didn't expect to feel the way I do about you. I didn't think I could be this happy, this connected to someone on this planet. But now that I have, I can't imagine going back to the way things were before. Mark looked at her, searching her eyes for any sign that she wasn't being truthful. But all he saw was sincerity. Despite the shock he felt, he realized that what Lyra was saying made sense. She wasn't lying about her mission, but she was also telling the truth about her feelings. She had come to Earth with a purpose. Yes, but her feelings for him had become something more than just a mission. I don't know if I can do this, Mark said quietly, looking away. I don't know if I can just accept that this is all part of some plan, as I care about you, Lyra, but I don't know if I can just be part of a bigger picture. Lyra's expression was filled with regret, but also understanding. I never wanted to pressure you, Mark. I never wanted to make you feel like you were just a part of some plan. I care about you more than you know, and I want you to make your own choice. If you don't feel the same way, I'll understand. Mark felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He wasn't sure what to feel, but he knew one thing for certain. Didn't want to lose what they had. Despite the confusion, despite the uncertainty, there was something about Lyra that had touched him in a way nothing ever had before. Let me think about this, Mark said, his voice filled with quiet determination. I need time, Lyra, but I promise, I'll figure it out. Just need to understand what I really feel. Lyra smiled softly, nodding. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. As they sat together in silence, Mark felt a sense of peace settle in his chest. He didn't have all the answers, but he knew one thing whatever happened next. He was ready to face it with Lyra by his side. The days after Lyra's confession were full of quiet moments and difficult questions. Mark spent a lot of time alone, walking around the city, trying to think things through. The weight of the decision he had to make was heavy. He had always been someone who focused on facts, on logic, but now he was caught in something that didn't make sense. Lyra wasn't just an alien, and their connection wasn't just some mission. He could feel the bond growing between them. Still, the fact that she had been sent here with a purpose bothered him. It made everything seem less real, less natural. As much as he wanted to be with her, Mark couldn't ignore the nagging doubt. In his mind, was he just part of a larger plan? Or did Lyra truly care for him the way he had come to care for her? One afternoon, Mark decided to confront her. He couldn't keep pretending everything was fine, especially when his heart felt torn between what he wanted and what he feared. He found her sitting by the window of his apartment, looking out at the city skyline. The soft glow of the setting sun lit up her face, making her look even more beautiful, more serene. But he knew something was missing. There was a distance between them now, a space that neither of them had created, but one that had grown all. The same, Lyra, Mark said, his voice soft. We need to talk. Lyra turned toward him, her eyes filled with concern, but also a calm understanding. I know, Mark. I feel it too. He walked over to her and sat down next to her. Between them was heavy, but he knew it was the only way to address the feelings they both had been carrying. Do you ever wonder if this is real? Mark asked, his words quiet but filled with emotion. I mean, I get it now. You came here on a mission, and I'm just part of that mission. You said it yourself. You didn't expect to feel this way. But I can't help but feel like I'm not just your partner. I'm a part of something bigger. I don't know if I can just accept that. Lyra took a deep breath, her eyes steady on him. I understand, Mark. I've been thinking about this too. And I want to be honest with you. Yes, I came here with a mission. But it wasn't just any mission. It was a mission to find someone who could help my people connect with your world. I didn't expect to find someone like you. But when I did, when I got to know you, I realized something. I didn't just come here to complete a mission. I came here to find something real. I came here because I wanted to share joy. And you, Mark, you've shown me that joy can come from the most unexpected places. Mark looked at her, his heart aching. I don't know how to feel about all of this, he admitted. I want to believe you. I really do. But it's hard when everything between us started with a purpose, not with us just meeting by chance. I'm scared, Lyra. I'm scared that I'm just another part of your mission, and that when it's over, you'll leave. Lyra reached out and gently took his hand in hers. I won't leave, Mark. Not because I have to stay, but because I want to. What I feel for you, it's real. The mission brought us together, but it's you who has made me feel like I belong here. I've never met anyone like you before, and I don't want to lose that. Mark felt a lump form in his throat. He wanted to believe her, but the doubts still lingered. He wasn't sure if he could trust that what they had was truly theirs, or if it was just a part of a larger plan that neither of them could control. Before he could respond, there was a knock on the door. The sound broke the tension. In the room, both Mark and Lyra stood up. Looking at each other in surprise, I wasn't expecting anyone, Mark said, confused. I'll get it. He opened the door to find two figures standing on the other side. One of them was a human man in a sharp suit, and the other was an alien tall, with skin that shimmered like metal under the light. Both of them wore expressions of authority, but it was the alien who spoke first. You must be Mark, the alien said, his voice calm but commanding. We need to speak with you. Mark felt a chill run down his spine.
What?
The human man stepped forward. James Carter, a representative of the Galactic Council? This is Varen, an emissary from Lyra's world. We've been watching your interactions with her. Lyra's face tightened, and Mark could see her discomfort. What is this about? She asked, her voice sharp. Carter looked at her with a mixture of respect and caution. We've received reports about your relationship with this human. As part of your mission, you were sent to form a bond. Yes. But the Council believes that things have gone beyond what was intended. Mark looked back and forth between Lyra and the two visitors.
Ow!
What do you mean by that? He asked, feeling a sense of fear building in his chest. Varen spoke next, his voice cold. Your bond with this human is disrupting the mission. It was never meant to be a personal relationship. The purpose of your visit was to collect data and build alliances, not to form romantic connections. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady, but filled with resolve. I don't see how that's a problem. I've found something real here, and I won't let anyone tell me that what I feel for Mark isn't important. Carter turned to her, his expression hardening. This isn't about feelings, Lyra. It's about the mission. We can't afford to let personal emotions interfere. With the work we've set out to do, Mark looked at Lyra, his heart racing. He could see the frustration in her eyes. But there was also something else, something that told him she wasn't ready to give up on them. And neither was he. I don't care about the mission, Mark said, his voice firm. What matters is what we have. If you're telling me that I can't be with her because of some larger plan, then I'm not interested. I'll figure things out myself. Carter and Verone exchanged looks, but neither of them said anything. Lyra stood next. To Mark, her hand still in his, we'll do it our way, Lyra said quietly. Lyra. Together. The days following the Council's visit were filled with tension. Mark couldn't shake the feeling of being caught in something bigger than him, something that was out of his control. He had never been someone to back down, but the pressure was starting to get to him. Every day, the news was full of reports about the Alien Council's efforts to form peaceful alliances with Earth. The world was watching, and so was the galaxy. Lyra, on the other hand, seemed as joyful as ever. Her attitude had not changed, even though she knew that their relationship was now under scrutiny. She continued to smile, laugh, and share her views of the world with Mark, but he could sense a quiet worry in her eyes that she kept hidden from him. The more she held it back, the more it ate at him. "I don't know how much longer we can keep this up," Mark confessed to her one evening as they sat on the balcony of his apartment watching the stars. "Everywhere I look, I see the Council's influence. Feels like they're pulling at the strings of our lives. I'm scared that we don't have control anymore." Lyra sat beside him, her hand resting gently on his. "I know how you feel, but what we have, Mark, is real. No one can take that away from us. It's not even the Council." Mark turned to her, his eyes searching hers. "But what if it's not enough? What if they force you to leave?" Lyra's eyes softened and she took a deep breath. "I can't promise that nothing will change, Mark, but I can promise you this: whatever happens, I will always remember what we've shared, and I will fight for you, for us, as long as I can." Mark nodded, feeling a mix of hope and uncertainty. He wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that love would be enough to overcome whatever challenges lay ahead. But deep down, he knew that the path they were on was far from easy. The next day, the situation took an unexpected turn. Mark received a message from the government, a formal invitation to meet with high-ranking officials. The message was polite, but firm, urging him to come and discuss his relationship with Lyra. The Council had clearly made their move. Mark's stomach tightened as he read the message. He knew this was coming. The Council had been gathering information, and now they wanted to have a conversation. He'd hoped it wouldn't come to this. He'd hoped that they could handle everything privately, without interference. But now, it seemed that the world was pushing them into the spotlight. He turned to Lyra, holding up the message. "This is it. They want to talk. And I don't think it's going to be a friendly chat." Lyra's face hardened, her eyes narrowing slightly. "I knew they wouldn't just leave us alone, but we've come this far. I'm not going to let them dictate my life, Mark." Mark stood up and paced around the room, his mind racing. "What do we do now? I don't want to lose you. I don't want them to tell you that you have to leave." Lyra stood and walked over to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I don't want that either. But this isn't just about us anymore. It's about the future of our worlds. If we can show them that our bond is real, maybe they'll stop trying to control it." Mark turned to face her, feeling a surge of determination. We'll show them that this is real." The meeting with the government officials was set for the following week. The tension in the air was palpable as Mark and Lyra walked into the large, sterile conference room. The walls were lined with screens displaying images of Earth and distant planets. At the far end of the room, several government representatives sat at a long table. They all stood as Mark and Lyra entered, their expressions neutral but serious. "Mr. Mark, Ms. Lyra," one of the officials said, his voice deep and commanding. "Thank you for joining us today." Mark felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He knew this meeting would be the turning point. The Council and the government had already made up their minds about the future of human-alien relations, but Mark wasn't going to let them decide his future, or Lyra's, or him. "We've called you here today to discuss the nature of your relationship," another official said, their eyes focused on Lyra. "It's clear that there is a strong connection between you both. However, we must remind you that this connection is not without its implications. Your actions are under scrutiny, and we need to ensure that the mission's goals are not compromised." Lyra stood tall, her gaze unwavering. "I understand your concerns," she said calmly. "But what we have is real. Our bond is not just part of a mission, it's something genuine. It's not just about diplomacy or political goals. It's about the shared joy we found in each other. And I believe that joy can transcend borders, species, and even politics." Mark stepped forward, his voice strong. "I've never believed in something so strongly before. I care about Lyra, and I will do whatever it takes to protect what we have. We've built something together that's bigger than just a sit, something that can unite two worlds." The room fell silent as the officials exchanged looks. Mark could feel the weight of their judgment, but he also knew that they had to understand the truth. They had to see that this wasn't just about two people coming together for political reasons. It was about love, trust, and the belief that joy could change the world. Finally, one of the officials spoke. "We understand your perspective, but we must consider the greater implications of this relationship. There are many factors at play here, factors that go beyond personal emotions." Lyra didn't back down, and I understand that. But I'm not here to be controlled. I'm here to build something better for both of our species. I believe in what Mark and I have, and I'm willing to fight for it. There was a long pause before the officials nodded, their expressions softening. "We will consider your words," one of them said. "But know that this conversation is far from over. We will continue to monitor the situation." As Mark and Lyra left the room, Mark could feel the weight of their words hanging in the air. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time, felt like they had taken a stand. "We did it," Lyra said quietly, her hand finding his. "We showed them that we're not just part of a plan. We're real." Mark squeezed her hand. "And we'll keep fighting for that, no matter what." As they walked out of the building, the world around them seemed a little brighter. And Mark knew that no matter what the future held, he and Lyra would face it together. The days after the meeting with the government officials were long and filled with uncertainty. Mark and Lyra both knew that the decision had not been made yet. The council and the government were still considering their relationship, and the pressure on them was only growing. But no matter how much the world around them tried to push them into a corner, they refused to back down. Mark had spent his life avoiding drama, keeping to the background, and letting life happen around him. But now everything had changed. Lyra had opened his eyes to a world he never knew existed, a world full of possibilities, hope, and joy. He couldn't let go of that. Not now, not ever. Every morning, Lyra would smile at him, as if nothing in the world could shake her belief in their future. Her smile was a constant source of comfort, even as the tension between the two worlds continued to build. She never let the pressure affect her, and Mark admired that strength more than anything. But even with her strength, Mark could see that she was starting to feel the weight of the situation too. There were moments when she would stare out the window, her expression distant, lost in thoughts that she wouldn't share. Mark knew she was trying to protect him from her worries. But he could see it in her eyes. She was scared. One evening, as they sat together on the couch in his apartment, Mark turned to Lyra, his voice steady. "We've been through a lot, haven't we?" Lyra nodded, her gaze soft. "Yes, but through it all, I've never once doubted that we're meant to be together. This bond we share, it's not something I can just walk away from. It's real, Mark. And I believe that no matter what, we'll make it work." Mark looked at her, his heart swelling with emotion, reached for her hand and held it in his, squeezing it gently. "I believe in us too, but there's something I need to tell you. I'm not afraid anymore. I used to worry about what would happen, about what the world would say. But you've shown me that love and joy can change everything. I can't imagine my life without you, Lyra, and I'm ready to fight for us, no matter what." Tears welled up in Lyra's eyes as she squeezed his hand back. "You've already given me so much, Mark. Your love, your trust, it's more than I ever expected, and it's all I need. Together, we can face anything." Mark smiled, a weight lifting from his shoulders. For the first time in a long time, he felt at peace. The future was still uncertain, but with Lyra by his side, he knew they could handle whatever came their way. The next morning, they received another message, this time from the Galactic Council. Mark opened it with a sense of dread, but as he read the words, a sense of relief washed over him. The Council had made their decision. They had acknowledged the bond between Mark and Lyra, and after much deliberation, had decided that it wasn't just a part of the mission. It was real. They had agreed to allow Mark and Lyra to continue their relationship. But under one condition, they would have to prove to both their worlds that their love was more than just a temporary connection. They would have to show the universe that humanity and Lyra's people could coexist in peace without interference. Mark turned to Lyra, his face breaking into a grin. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with disbelief. "They accepted us. They're giving us a chance." Lyra's eyes shone with tears of joy. "I knew we could do it. I knew our love was strong enough to make a difference." For the next few days, the world seemed to open up before them. News outlets from all over Earth and the galaxy reported on the decision, and Mark and Lyra became symbols of hope and unity. People from all walks of life reached out to them, sharing their support and joy for their relationship. It was a moment Mark had never imagined in his wildest dreams. He, a simple mechanic from Earth, is now part of something much bigger than himself. But even as they celebrated, Mark and Lyra knew that their work wasn't over. They still had to show the universe that their love could bridge the gap between two very different worlds. There would be challenges, doubts, and obstacles ahead, but they were no longer afraid of what the future held. One day, as they stood on the balcony of Mark's apartment, looking out over the city, Lyra turned to him with a serious expression. "There's something else I've been thinking about, Mark," she said quietly. "What is it?" Mark asked, sensing the change in her tone. "I know we've made it through the hardest part," she said, her voice full of conviction. "But there's still a lot of work to do. I want to build a future with you, Mark. A future where we can live together, where we can help both of our worlds find peace. But it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. And I need to know that you're ready for that." Mark took her hand and held it tightly. "I'm ready," he said, without hesitation. "I'm ready to spend my life with you, Lyra. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Lyra smiled, her eyes soft and full of love. "And let's do it," she said, her voice filled with joy. "Let's show the universe that love is the key to everything, that joy can truly change the world." As Mark held Lyra in his arms, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The future was still unknown, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid of it. Together, they had the power to change everything. Together, they would create a future built on love, trust, and joy. And that, he realized, was all they truly needed.